Look at that niceness now. Just look at that. Oi, Father. In my big soup pot, I've got 2 pounds of salted pigtail, which was pre-boiled for about an hour before because I want to tenderize it a bit and to help remove most of that salt in there. Later on, we will taste the soup when it's all done and adjust the salt, but for now I'm thinking I probably won't need any salt. But just as a reminder, taste it at the end and adjust it because there's still quite a bit of salt left in there, and they're cut into pieces, 1-inch pieces. Here I have the dried pigeon peas, and it's no longer dried. That was 1.5 cups of pigeon peas, dried pigeon peas, that I soaked in water. You cover it with about 2 inches of water, and it was soaking for about 8 hours. To help with the body of the soup, I have here 1.5 pounds of Caribbean calabaza pumpkin, and if you cannot get that, any sort of squash will work, but that's going to help give this soup some body. For some more body, I've got 1 large carrot that I just cubed up there. Next up, we've got 3 scallions that I chopped up. Just give it a rough chop. Yeah, things look a little bit different than I normally do with soup. I'm just adding, and the pot is cold. A large onion sliced up, but we're just gonna put everything in there. You know, usually when I do soups, I usually start with some olive oil in there, and then I saute or fry up, as we say in the Caribbean, these sort of flavor ingredients, which would be the onion and the thyme and all those, the garlic and all those things. But today, this is the easiest soup you will ever make. Trust me on that one. Except for the dumplings, yeah, we'll see about that. In goes some garlic, and that's about 7 cloves of garlic. I've got a scotch bonnet pepper that I just chopped in half. And you know, if you want to take out the seeds and the membrane around the seed, that's where most of the heat is going to be. Additionally, if you don't want to cut it open, I like my food spicy. If you don't want to cut it open and you want to float it whole, you can certainly do that. So after we put the water and the coconut milk, you will float it in there. Don't break it during the cooking process or you will release the beast. That Caribbean sunshine, you know, joke. But that's the other way of doing things. More from the herbal front. We're gonna go in with a whack of fresh thyme. We'll need black pepper in there. And a few allspice berries or pimento berries. Now if you wanted to hit that with a bay leaf, you can add a bay leaf in there as well. All I'm going to do now is top that up with water, so that I already have 8 cups of water in there. So I'm going to add 4 more cups of water, or 3 liters. And that is 3 liters in total. And of course we need coconut milk, so 1 can of coconut milk. And that can is 398 milliliters. All we gotta do now is crank up the heat and bring this up to a boil, and then we're gonna reduce it to a simmer. The idea adding the pumpkin at this point here is it's gonna melt and it's gonna help give the soup a nice body. The carrots is gonna cook down as well. We pre-cooked the salted pigtail. And you know, if salted pigtail is not your thing, any sort of smoked meat, smoked turkey, all those things would work in there. The peas were soaked for that 8 hours, as I said, nice and plump, and that will help the cook time as well too. So let's turn up the heat now. It's been going now for 1 hour and 20 minutes, and you can see the level of the water, the liquid, because it's a combination of coconut milk and water, has dropped considerably. What I did was I left it open. First of all, the lid was off, and ever so often I would take like a piece of pumpkin, slide it to the side, and I would just crush it with the back of my spoon, and that helped to give it the body and the color that you're looking at there. Of course, everything cooked down nicely. Now here's where you're going to grab a couple of the peas and you're going to squeeze them, allow it to cool down, squeeze them and make sure it's nice and tender, because everything else in here is fully cooked. Now let's start making the dumplings. I'm making cassava dumplings, so it's going to be a 50-50 sort of split between cassava and just regular plain old wheat flour. This is too much. This is the cassava here. It's covered in a bit of wax, and that's just the way it is packaged for it to remain, well, to have a long shelf life. All I need is half of this. I'll quickly show you how we're going to peel this. That's a thick skin, so we're just going to cut off the bottom there, and then you're going to use the edge of your paring knife and go the thickness of the skin, and you're going to go in a sort of cylindrical sort of motion like so. So you did a sort of a spiral. Then you would just take your knife, same paring knife, and then just peel back the skin like so. And all I'm doing is grating the cassava now to get a sort of a paste out of it. Just be careful when you're grating, because you don't want to grate your fingers. I've had bad experiences as a kid grating my fingers. For the grated cassava, I'm going to add a teaspoon of brown sugar and about 1 cup of all-purpose flour. Just going to hit that to mix, just to stir everything together. And then we're going to add water to form a dough, and that there will be the dough for the cassava dumplings, which we'll be adding to the soup. I mix it around with my spoon to start with. I added water as I said I would. So I'm just going to go in with my hands now, and we're going to work that dough. It's nice and clean. That's already coming together there. It won't take much time or much effort. Just gonna hit here some flour. I have it in my bowl here with a damp paper towel over it. Just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna break it up into 3. 1, 2, 3. And then all I'm gonna do is roll this out like so. It's not cooperating with Aya today, but small thing. Just gonna use our hands and work it like so. Just gonna pull it out like that, and with my knife, just little tiny bite size. These are gonna swell up a little bit more once it goes into the soup, but you get the idea. And now we're gonna make it rain dumplings. "20 minutes after adding the dumplings, and we've got a lovely soup going on here. Everything is nice and tender now. Taste it for salt, adjust it. We got 1 more pimento that I didn't get rid of there. We can get rid of that. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. Soup season continues. Today we made that lovely pigeon peas with cassava dumpling. We've got salted pigtail in there. If there's a certain recipe for the soup season series that we're doing you'd like to see, drop it in the comment down below. Irie, just look at that niceness now. Just look at that. Oi, Father.